next up, we have our lightning talks, and we have first Charles Rumford with Deft. He is going to be speaking on 20 hours to 20 minutes, a story of process, automation, and being lazy.
Hi, my name, as introduced, my name is Charles Rumford. I'm a network engineer and automation engineer at Deft. And I wanted to share a quick story of a project that I worked on last year to show the technology that the automation I came up with, but also to review the process and allow people to see what some of the benefits of going through a formalized process to do the automation is. But where most automation starts with is that you need to have a task that you want to automate, right? Something that takes a long time, that's manually intensive, things like that. And for us, that after listening to a bunch of conversations, that was draining traffic off of a router to perform maintenance, right? We don't want to just turn the router off. We want to, gracefully drain all the traffic off the device and then turn it off and do the maintenance we need to do. But when I started at Deft, that process was very manually intensive. It involved touching a lot of devices. It was very risk prone. There were lots of documents that had to be produced, and it took somewhere on the order of 20 to 30 hours per device to drain that traffic. And I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. There's got to be a simpler way to do this. There's got to be a faster way to do this. Let's dive in. So I went through a standard requirements gathering process. So the process started with just gathering requirements. And this involved talking to other engineers, shadowing projects so I could see how people were doing things, and documenting everything, right? It may be simple documentations in my Vim notebook, or it could have been in our Confluence, but the point was it got recorded. After that, I started going through all the information that I collected during the requirements and started building user stories. How are people going to be using this tool? What tasks do they need to accomplish? What are the end results? How do we get there? And then also the big thing I think that gets ignored a lot are how to deal with errors, right? Bob does a thing and the router explodes, or Sally does a thing and all the BGPs in the entire network go down, something like that. But those need to be documented also. From there, I'm a huge fan of building minimal viable products and building small things that accomplish a very simple goal and then iterating on those as I go forward, right? So I took what we were doing by hand and just directly turned that into a Python script that did exactly the same thing, right? Minimal viable product. It's now, I've gone from 20 hours to 40 minutes, right? But because we had all that documentation about the process and the requirements and the user stories, it allowed us to go back and reevaluate how we were doing it and inspect the process to improve the process, right? Which then allowed me to make the next version of the code, which got us down to 20 minutes, right? So, I messed up my automations. So the product that I came up, the script that I came up with was, I called it Drano because, well, you're draining traffic off a router. The first thing, it's a Python-based automation, ran from a Linux command line. It's super configurable, so the whole thing's powered out of a YAML file. So you can change how different routers get drained. The other thing that's really exciting about it is very plugin based. So if there's an action that needs to be taken with a different type of router that's supporting a different type of service, we can just write a new plugin for it, shove it in, move on with the work. The other big thing that I really thought about were quick exit points, right? Something goes wrong, I want to stop, and I want to stop now, right? So as each step is taken, there are a number of state checks that are taken to make sure that the router is still in good working order before moving to the next step, right? I've used, Juniper has a state checker that you can run before you run an operation and again, and then it will compare the states for you. It's a really cool Python library if no one's seen it. But the other thing is I really wanted to make sure that you could run the script 400 times and not mess anything up. So the whole thing is idempotent, right? You can run this script 400 times and not have any problems. But that also means that if something does happen, the engineer can go and fix the problem and then just run the script again and not have to worry about the 12 steps that had happened already and just worry about the next 13 that need to happen, right? And as I said earlier, the whole thing is state-driven. Wow, I really did mess up this automation. So some takeaways. The big thing is document, 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 right? If you don't have documentation, whether it's informal or formal, it's going to be really hard to explain your automation and why you're doing things to other engineers. But at the same time, you also need to have like README files and instructions on how to use it. Whether or not other people read it or not is a different problem, but it should at least exist. The other thing is you can't automate something that doesn't exist, right? You can't automate a process that doesn't already exist. So you need to formalize the process first, and then you can go and automate it, right? A couple of companies that I've worked for, they're like, go automate this thing. And I'm like, what thing? There's no process. So we then spent the time to do that work. The other thing is that as you gather all that documentation and you build things, don't be afraid to review, question, and interrogate the process, right? Nothing changes or gets better unless you question it, think about it. If you just keep going down the line of, this is how we've always done it, this is how we'll always do it, nothing really gets improved, right? As I said earlier, minimal viable product is my friend. It is how I do most of my automation work. And then the following thing is iterate, 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 right? As you complete something, take some time, step back, review, question, and interrogate, find ways to make it better, and then just keep going forward. Also, less NAT, more V6. So that is all I've got.